CRNAs somehow paved the path for 1099 contracting, picking up
Welcome
extra
to
work.
Behind the Frame, where we go beyond the LinkedIn bios and Instagram highlight reels to talk about what really happens when you're building something from scratch. I'm Jay Duffy, co-founder of Frame Wealth Partners, business owner, husband, dad, and guy who still wonders if winging it counts as a legitimate growth strategy. Spoiler, it does sometimes. Join me and my amazing co-hosts, Morgan Watson and Annette Quigley, as we sit down with someone who's built a business or is knee-deep in the messy middle of it. And we talk about the real stuff, the pivots, the late nights, the wins no one celebrated, and the lessons no one warned them about. So grab a coffee or something stronger. We're going behind the frame. Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Frame, where we go beyond the business card to uncover some stories, struggles, sacrifices, and successes that built today's leaders. Joining me once again is my co-host, Morgan Watson. Morgan, how you doing, bud?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Excited about today. It should be a really good one.
I think it will be too. Today's guest has lived two completely different careers at the same time. She has spent nearly 3 decades caring for patients as a certified registered nurse anesthetist, while simultaneously building one of the country's premier anesthesia, I always struggle with that word too, anesthesia staffing companies. What started in 2003 as a family business with a simple vision has grown into a nationwide organization connecting hospitals, surgery centers, anesthesiologists, and CRNAs across America. She understands healthcare from both sides, the provider standing beside the operating table and the entrepreneur responsible for building a company that needs operating rooms running every day. Her story is one of taking risk, trusting her expertise, and building a business with family, embracing technology before many competitors, and proving healthcare professionals can become exceptional entrepreneurs. Danielle Boggio, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jay and Morgan.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to do this first podcast ever.
There we go.
Support you guys and Prudential, and hopefully somebody out there will enjoy the conversation.
I love it. I love it. Danielle, we always start our shows with a weekend win. So I'm going to pose the question first to Morgan. He'll come back to me, and then we'll ask you what was your weekend win. So Morgan, what was your weekend win?
It was good. So our oldest, Meryl, just had a knee surgery. So she's had to spend the summer up at school as part of a chemistry major doing all these labs over the summer. So she missed the last 2 weeks. And then she had her big presentation. So I went up, had to drive her up because she's on crutches. And Jay, I can honestly tell you, this usually happens to me, but this is probably the most extreme example. I have never felt dumber in my life than going through all these chemistry grad students and undergrad students and all these things they're working on in the lab. I can't even pronounce what they're doing. But it was wonderful to watch. You get to watch your kid in a setting that is so much ahead of where you are, and she just crushed it, and it was so it was good. It was
That's awesome.
I tried to explain to you what they're working on. All I know is with pharmaceutical companies, but yeah, it was a good win. How about the Duffy family?
Well, I was a solo dad this weekend, so I call it a weekend win when the house is still erect and the kids are still alive. We did get to go, and I surprised them. I was able to get tickets for the new Spider-Man that came out, so they were psyched to see the new Spider-Man that came out. And then Mom finally got home on Saturday late evening, so finish out the weekend with Mom. So it was good.
Awesome.
So Danielle, how was your weekend win?
My weekend win was amazing because I'm out in Park City, Utah.
Nice.
And I had a fabulous weekend walking up to a concert at the Canyons and saw 38 Special.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Beautiful evening, beautiful mountains behind us, just amazing. And the next day I followed up with a great hike, 2,900 feet in elevation up.
Oh, good heavens.
And at the very top, there were 3 lakes. It was absolutely beautiful. Actually, my background is from the hike that I did.
Oh, wow.
and it was about 8 miles. We probably 5 hours, and just amazing. It's amazing that you can do a hike, get to the top of the mountain, and there are 3 lakes at the top with a moose up there too.
Oh my, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
the big
it was awesome.
question is when, with 38 Special, when did Hold On Loosely come on? Was it the last song?
It wasn't the last song.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it
I'm
was
surprised.
close to the end, but
No.
sort of in the middle. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So Danielle, we're going to start off kind of going all the way back to where you started. First off, where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Florida,
Okay.
born in Hollywood, lived in Fort Lauderdale, and then moved to Boca Raton uh, for most of my schooling, high school and middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So growing
So,
up,
yeah.
what were you always interested in medicine or the medical field, or how did that kind of evolve?
I would say as I got older and started thinking about what do I want to be when I grow up, I just found the human body very fascinating and became very interested in how the body works and what makes it work. And I really think that, along with that, the good old helping people, the
Yeah.
combination sort of led me to healthcare.
Wow.
Ironically, nobody in my family was in healthcare. And my family, just a little background, my grandparents, no, back in the day, they didn't go to college. They finished high school. My grandfather built a developer. He was a developer
Okay.
and built a company, construction company, turned into a large developing company called Corn Construction in South Florida. And him and my grandmother built out a company together. She was the model decorator
Okay.
and the face of the company. My grandfather was behind the scenes, the hard
Okay.
worker, the hirer. Um, and they started out very small and built their company from building out single family homes, condos, and then shopping centers.
Oh,
So did a
wow.
little bit of everything. Yeah. My
Now,
dad took over and became the person who ran the business as my grandparents got older and passed away. And then he did all these little side gigs that drove my grandparents crazy. But
well, it sounds like it, but how much of an influence did your grandparents have on you as maybe an entrepreneur?
huge.
Yeah.
My grandparents were amazing. They really helped to raise me and my sisters. I have 2 sisters. Um, my parents were sort of busy socially, I guess, and
Hmm.
they would, I don't know, they would go away and go fishing, go away with friends, drop us off at the grandparents' house. And my grandfather was just somebody that you really looked up to, very, very strong. Um, Also very athletic, and I really took on to him.
Okay.
And I was the one who really learned about sports and exercise. And back in the day when it wasn't even important to exercise, he had it in his heart to exercise.
That's
And he
awesome.
would take us out for a little run. I remember when we were about, I don't know, 7, 10 years old, and we'd go for a little jog, and he wouldn't have us just jog, but take our arms and bring them up and down and do all these funny things, and we went along with it. But he and my grandmother was my grandma. My grandma was the matriarch. She ran the family. She ran the business.
Yeah.
Very confident. Always looked perfect, and had the saying, you got to suffer to be beautiful. And yeah, so they were great. They were great to their grandparents. I think they were very difficult parents,
Okay.
but really good to all the grandkids.
That's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
set a high example. They taught us golf. They taught us tennis. Whatever in life they could. They took us on ski trips once a year. So I was fortunate to have really great grandparents.
That's awesome. When did becoming, because again, so we're starting from growing up and who had a big influence for you. When did becoming, a CRNA become a goal first? When did that happen for you?
Well, funny enough, my grandfather, as I got older and became interested in healthcare, my grandfather said to me, if you want to go to medical school, I'll pay for it. And at the time, I feel like I didn't have the confidence and I wasn't sure what was all entailed with doing that. And quite frankly, I think I kind of wimped out and I decided to go into nursing and thought, well, that'll be fine. I'll be a nurse. And, back in that day, also women, there weren't very many female doctors.
Right.
So I think I was just intimidated by it. I will say it has been one of my big regrets. As I
Really?
became a CRNA, I really wished I was a doctor.
Okay.
So I became a nurse, went to Boston University, transferred to University of Vermont, met my husband, became a nurse. As soon as I became a nurse, I learned what being a nurse was. I felt like it didn't really suit my personality, taking orders and following through. I
Yeah.
I I really wanted to make my own decisions. I was never good at following the rules. My
Sure.
parents would tell you that. Broke lots of them. So I think personality wise, I needed something more. And I found out about becoming a CRNA. And I, as quickly as I could, which was a year of ICU experience was required.
Yeah.
And then you could apply to school. Um, at that time, the career itself was a certificate program. Then it became a master's program. When I went to school, they were all masters. Now they're all doctorate programs. So, like many career paths, it's all about furthering your education, and that's kind of where we
Yeah.
are with that.
Right.
It's interesting, knowing you and having worked with you for a while. The idea of you not having the confidence to do something is, I'm having a hard time equating the two. Uh, Now, the second part of the conversation, following the rules and doing it my way, I get completely. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, and it is strange, and I don't know what else to say other than I felt like, yeah, at that time, I don't know why, but it wasn't really my personality then either. But
Mhm.
I think I felt like nurses had maybe more say than they did. And as I learned a little bit more about the career, I felt as though I didn't have as much of an impact that I wanted to have. And maybe I
Right.
was a little bit jaded on what being a nurse entailed. Even ICU nurses, I mean, there was the most, you made the
Yep.
most decisions in ICU, but I still felt like I wanted more. So I found
Yeah.
out what CRNAs did and I was kind of hooked. That's the path I'm going on.
Okay. Now, what do you think has changed the most, for CRNAs over your years of your clinical work?
Yeah, kind of a complicated question because when I worked initially, when I got my first job, it was in Maryland at University of Maryland Shock Trauma Center.
Hmm.
And I had met several very independently practicing, very well respected CRNAs
Yeah.
who I wanted to be like. Um, as my career went on, I would say the profession itself became a little bit more um, of a team collaborative approach than more of a at that time CRNAs ran everything.
Right.
And ironically enough, it's changed in the sense that now there's more team. However, there are also still many hospitals out there, especially critical access, where CRNAs run the whole department.
Hmm.
So, well, the popularity of CRNAs became a profession. I think that the profession really expanded. Where there were CRNAs, they were probably more independent back in the day, 30 plus years ago, 40 years ago. Then it became a little bit more of a collaborative thing. And now it just varies. It varies not only from state to state, but even facility to facility as far as how much independence a CRNA has over an anesthesiologist, or how they work together or separate.
Yeah, I was getting more kind of understanding of the profession, and as you mentioned, I think there were a lot of misconceptions with the field. Are there any others that kind of stand out where outside looking in, you may think one thing, and then once you're in the profession, you see it for something different?
Yeah. The interesting evolution to me was when I first went to school and became a CRNA, even when I was in school, when I became a CRNA, for years, people had no idea what a nurse anesthetist was. And the impression was that we assist the anesthesiologist. Um, they
Hmm.
couldn't pronounce the word. They didn't know what a
Yep.
CRNA was. They didn't know, what we did. It was very hard to describe and explain.
Okay.
And I think the evolution now is that CRNAs are very known in the
Yeah.
community. I mean, maybe what's helped the most is that colonoscopies became such a thing.
Sure.
And, everybody, patients talk to their anesthesia providers, and they're not as stressed out when they're
Yeah.
having a colonoscopy. So when somebody says I'm a CRNA, they hear it.
Yep.
There were many times over my career when I said I'm a nurse anesthetist, and they
They-
heard anesthesiologist,
Yeah.
yeah.
and there was a big movement in my career also where our national organization really was trying to get providers or CRNAs to explain who we were and what we were and what we did,
Yeah.
because people didn't know. And it was about educating, it was marketing our profession. And it's kind of cool now that I think a lot of patients, people know what CRNAs do. And now, kind of full circle, we as a profession are generally in the operating rooms giving anesthesia, putting
Right.
patients to sleep, maintaining their anesthesia and waking them up. There are practices where CRNAs do that all by themselves, and then there are practices that are still more of a collaborative team effort. An anesthesiologist is around if you need help. They may be there when you put the patient to sleep. They may be there when you wake them up. Different reasons for that. Some of them are billing. Some of them are hospitals, system, protocols, and bylaws.
Okay.
So lots of different ways of how
So,
CRNAs can practice.
obviously, there's been a big evolution. Let's talk about the evolution of you going from CRNA to building this staffing company, Anesthesia Solutions. How did that How did that work for you? What happened?
So, yeah, kind of interesting. So I started the company in 2003.
Hmm.
When I started, my kids were 7 and 8. Um, I guess I've always been somebody who takes on more than the average, and I don't like to sit still. I don't like to watch TV. I have to be really tired and really need to like unwind. So, well, I had these kids, my pride and joy, and of course, like every parent, the most important thing in my whole life, my two
Yep.
daughters. Um, I still kept really busy. I taught spinning 5 o'clock in the morning. I
Wow.
went to work. I gave anesthesia. I moonlighted. I picked up extra work.
Oh
I
my.
decided that I guess I always liked the idea of making money. It just felt good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started to work for another CRNA who had kind of not really formed a business, but I guess he did, found work for other CRNAs. Back then, it was really just setting them up, connecting them to somebody, and that was all that person did.
Yeah.
Me as a provider, I would go through the credentialing process. I would actually even arrange my own schedule and find shifts based on this one person kind of handing me off to them. And I guess I felt a little frustrated and thought to myself, well, first of all, he wasn't staffing all the needs. He wasn't filling all the needs that were out there. At that time, there was a big shortage in anesthesia.
Okay.
And I just kind of said to myself, maybe I can find people to work. You know, I found myself having 10 places, literally 10 different facilities that I could work at the same day.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just started making phone calls. Back then, email was barely around, and certainly people didn't text or have phones like they do now. I got lists. I started calling people, then email became a thing. I started emailing people. I go to meetings. I networked. I talked to everybody. Um, I found myself finding people to work,
Yeah.
and through connections and networking, getting more hospitals and more surgery centers, and just kind of making it happen. At that time, I was working 50 hours a week clinically, doing this on
Jeez.
the side. I looked at my husband, who had an economics finance degree, and he at the time was working in a little family business with his dad,
Yep.
doing um, some estate planning kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he really needed to get away from his dad and do something on his own.
Sure.
And I said, John, can you help me? I think this is going to be something. I can't do it all. You know,
So
I
yeah,
can't schedule and
to that point, bringing John in,
yeah.
did he immediately buy into the vision?
Um, you know, it's really hard to remember, but I
Yeah.
think that in a way it was about him trusting me that it was time to separate from his father.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
I was giving him that opportunity.
Okay.
So I think it was a little bit of that.
Okay.
Um, and I was pretty confident in that this was going to be something. And if
Yeah.
nothing else, I could get him to have a career outside of the family.
Yeah.
So it kind of took off. Back then, he was helping me with, God, it's so hard to remember, guys. It seems like forever ago, and how different things were. You know, everything
So
was on paper.
yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
was email became a thing. You know, I would send out a schedule to each individual provider as to where they're working, and an email to each hospital and who they were going to have working there. I would
Right.
have to make sure that they were there. I would help with credentialing and make sure the credentialing person was working with this provider and they were getting in everything they needed to get in. Then the providers had to get paid. They would submit a timesheet via
Jeez.
fax. They would have to create an invoice because they were 1099, so that would have to come with the fax.
Oh my goodness.
Then we would have
So
to match up, you know, the paying the provider and invoicing the client. We hired an administrative assistant. We went through a few of them that were not so good.
Yeah.
And then eventually found somebody who was great. And at that time, our business really grew. Morgan,
so
you're going to ask something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you're working 50 hours a week as a clinician, raising
Mm-hmm.
2 young daughters, starting a business on your own. I mean,
Yeah.
it's any of this individual task is a little daunting, let alone throw all three together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you start, obviously you saw a need and an opportunity. Did you have a hard time having hospitals or clinics see you as a good resource for that need, or was there really such a need available that you were a great solution?
Yeah. At that time, things were so different. And it wasn't common to have anesthesia providers work through an agency.
Hmm.
It was more so that anesthesia providers would get hired by a group and work there and be employed. So it was really just coming out, the idea for CRNAs to become independent practitioners,
Yeah.
contractors, and moonlight on their own.
Mhm.
Strangely enough, anesthesiologists, it was even more rare. And the anesthesiologists who did that were usually those that couldn't get hired by a practice for one reason or another. And they weren't really known as the providers that you wanted to hire. It was very hard to find really good providers to do that. CRNAs somehow paved the path for 1099 contracting, picking up extra work. I guess if you think about nurses and agency nurses, it sort of is the same path that CRNAs took. At that time, there were lots of conferences that were coming out on how to have a business in anesthesia, how to form an LLC, and the importance of having your own malpractice.
Sure.
And it was a big thing in my profession. As the profession was growing, it wasn't just being a CRNA and being an employee, but it was being an independent contractor and being a business person. Now, that business side was not having a company, but it was just forming your own LLC.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Now,
yeah, ironically enough, you guys, the other thing that I did that sounds kind of crazy to me now. I don't know how I did it all, but I ran marathons and got heavily into triathlons. So I'm not sure when I sleep, but
can
when
you,
I slept,
first off, Danielle, can you
Yeah.
explain what that is to Morgan? He does not work out, so he may need a little bit of
running.
clarification there.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to throw a
the
jab in
fridge bag, but that's about it.
there.
It's funny when you're younger though, and I was somebody who said as long as I have 5 hours of sleep, I'm good.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a little older, I need a few more hours. But back then, I was good with that. 5 hours of sleep, and I was good.
Well,
So,
what's interesting, Danielle, is like I'm gonna kind of speed up a little bit to
yeah.
to COVID.
Business. Okay.
And what I was thinking about is like there's usually two things that happen. We hear stories from COVID. The business dissolved or it thrived. You guys seem to thrive in COVID. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, for sure. We went from staffing hospitals, surgery centers in Maryland to expanding a bit. Before COVID, we expanded a bit in Mid-Atlantic,
Mm-hmm.
DC, Delaware, Virginia.
Yeah.
And really when COVID happened and the world was ending, I
Yeah.
thought our business was also.
Oh, geez.
I mean, surgeries were on hold, so nobody needed anesthesia staff. Actually, I was trying to form COVID teams with my providers to help out in ICUs. I was getting masks imported from other countries and
Wow.
N95.
Yeah.
I was finding nurses who could administer vaccinations, do testing. Just when I was starting to get all this stuff ramping, I found a little gig for me to go into DC and give anesthesia for some surgeon who said his cases were emergencies. Not really sure they were, but he could operate during COVID. And just at that time, all of a sudden it turned around. I actually signed up for a COVID assignment in New York.
Mm-hmm.
When all this was happening, finally the world started opening up again. And before we knew it, some of our previous clients had expanded and taken over hospitals throughout the country. So we kind of rolled with it. I remember looking at my husband and our new administrative assistant at the time, who, we all just looked at each other like, wow, this is crazy. And I said, okay, guys, we're going to staff nationwide. We're
Wow.
we're going to do this. And my husband, who isn't quite as crazy as I am, tried to convince me that we weren't going to do it. And somehow it happened. And we started staffing, outside of Maryland and Mid-Atlantic area, and just again, I kind of went on the path of recruiting and networking and talking to people and do you
Wow.
know anybody, and got onto a couple of job sites where we could market our jobs, trying to get our name out there.
Yeah.
Developed our own, at that time we were using Google Sheets and Excel
Yeah.
files to keep everything straight. We got to the point where we really needed to start using AI and tech and getting more organized. We created a CRM, we created an ATS, applicant tracking system.
Wow.
We created a timesheet system with another company that helped us with that. Created assignment confirmations. Everything now is digital, and we can access, providers can access, clients can access, scheduling system, digital. So we really, it's been exciting. I like change. I would say an important aspect of becoming an entrepreneur or a business owner or a leader is accepting change. For me, I
Yes.
think that's gotten me places. I actually get really bored with the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So
You
I'm in
make a
agreement.
great point
Yeah. Yeah.
as you grew, kind of embracing technology and either finding it or creating it. And you've done a tremendous job with that. Where do you kind of see the industry growing, both as an industry and kind of the next evolution of technology within it? What's the future look like?
I think with any company that is going to succeed right now in our world, we have to use tech, embrace it, and AI, and grow with it and you know, be on the forefront. I also think you can't be in the background watching it happen and saying, okay, now I'm ready. You kind of got to be part of developing it and finding the place for it,
Yeah.
because if you don't, someone else will. Right now there's a lot going on with AI agents
Hmm.
in recruiting, and it's a it's a little it's a little hard to accept, like, how humans are going to accept talking to a robot, right?
Right.
And we're
Yeah.
all trying to figure that out right now. I
Absolutely.
think in the same way, I think the best thing that I think what will happen and work the best in our industry, because it's such a people industry, is if there's transparency that we're collecting data, this is a robot, give me what I need, then I will connect you to a person, until more of the world starts to accept robots and talking to
Yeah.
robots entirely. There's going to have to be a little bit of a transition. But there's a lot of vetting that has to go on with recruiting, and, you know, finding the right match, the provider to the job, the
Absolutely.
clinical skills, the schedule that they need, the location that they want to work, um, the money that they want to get paid.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of work figuring it out. Also, will that person clear for that client? So, because in a world like anesthesia, which is sort of a small, big world, I mean, it's all over the country, but people know each other and the networking is quite unique. There are anesthesia groups, for example, that already know a certain provider and they won't clear them to be a locum agency provider because they are already known to them. So there's little intricacies within different industries. Maybe AI will help us figure that out a little bit faster. Right now, you can Google someone, you can chat GBT someone, and some of the information you get is right and some is wrong.
So it's not. Yeah.
So I think as that all gets better, every industry will grow faster and faster, because when you
Yeah.
can do the work in less time and get the
Absolutely.
answers, solve the problems quicker.
Yeah. Danielle, before we move on to our next two segments, I have one final question, really, just kind of around your development of Anesthesia Solutions. for you, I mean, you went from CRNA to now I'm a business owner, and now theoretically I'm a leader. So how do you feel maybe leadership has changed you personally?
That's it's a big question.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of changes have happened with me leadership wise. One, I think that, well, I talked earlier about my parents, my grandparents, my father. They were tough. They were tough in
Yeah,
the business world. I think back then you kind of had to be to have a business and succeed. And what I would say is when I started out with my business, I probably was not a very good leader and I expected too much out of people.
sure.
I don't think that I treated people as well as I should have. And how I feel now and understand the importance of people wanting to be heard, wanting to make decisions, wanting you to understand their personal life,
Yeah,
um, and and not just be told what to do, but be part of what they're doing. And
yep,
that was really hard for me. I saw my dad was always very tough and very demanding, and
hmm,
I thought that was normal and how I needed to be.
yeah,
And so I think that that evolved. Personally, I think I was always the same
yeah.
as a friend, but as a leader or as a boss, I hope that most people would say that I've gotten better.
Yeah, I think that the reason we created this podcast a while some time ago now is because we feel that there's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs out there, and what they don't understand is that at some point, when it's just not you anymore, and you have staff and you have other employees that are a part of your team, you're actually a leader, and building that leadership capital is really, really important. And I, unfortunately, at least from my experience, I don't want to speak for Morgan, you don't learn that until you make a bunch of mistakes as a leader.
Yeah.
You don't get better as a leader. I know my personally, my empathy meter has had to go up a lot, in becoming a better leader, and helping build the right culture.
And
And the better leader you are, the better the culture is, the better your business performs, the better everyone else does.
yeah. And learning how to inspire people to be the best that they can be
Oh yeah,
and to motivate them to want to be that, and also to feel like you have the confidence in them to do it.
Yep.
There's so many aspects of it that you yeah, I really did have to learn for
yeah,
myself, and I'm still learning.
perfect. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to move into our next segment. These next two segments probably only going to be about 2-3 minutes because they're kind of fast, rapid fire questions. Our first one is our hot or not section. So this is kind of relates to your industry, and we'll go through a few of these questions. You tell us hot or not. Feel free to elaborate as well, whether why it's hot or why it's not. So I will start off because we just talked about this. AI screening candidates.
Totally hot. Very hot.
To Very hot.
Very hot.
Awesome. Awesome.
Travel healthcare.
Travel healthcare is extremely hot too. It is much more now. It depends on the segment. So nursing
Hmm.
travel healthcare has sort of died down, but it goes through waves.
Okay.
Physician traveling healthcare has gone up in leaps and bounds. And you talk to people who never would have thought that a specialty surgeon would be traveling to perform surgeries. And that is a
Yep.
thing right now. So they
Interesting.
take time off, they take their vacation time, and they go somewhere and they get paid a lot of money to do surgery for their
Yeah.
week of vacation that they wouldn't be making money.
I'm gonna throw this one out there because we know John. How about working with your spouse? Hot or not?
Very not hot. Cold, cold, cold.
Cold,
Hardest
cold,
thing
cold.
you'll
It's
ever
tough,
do.
right?
Hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah,
Don't
I just
recommend
I
it for anyone. I honestly, I think one of my daughters, who is an anesthesia resident, has seen how hard it is, and she says, "Yeah, I don't think I want to marry a doctor."
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
just being in a different career, I honestly just think it's interesting for a relationship to have different things to talk about.
Yeah.
And
I
we have
I
to
agree.
work really hard on not talking about the business. And that's challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
I was yeah, I love my wife to death. I could not see us. I think she'd probably kill me.
Yeah.
If she worked with me. So
Yeah.
I know, look, I had worked with my mother. My mother had worked with me for a little bit, and Morgan
No.
knows this story. But Danielle, the first day my mother worked with me, I had asked her to do something, and I guess the tone that I used, she did not like. And so she literally turned around to me in front of like about five of the advisors that I work with and says, "Look, I have fried bigger fish than you." And I immediately had to pull her into my office. It's like, Mom, you can't talk to me that way.
Yeah.
I'm the boss here. Like you
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah.
But to this day, like everyone talks to me about that incident.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How
John and I
about,
have definitely had those incidents too. And it is very hard, especially when you're on video too,
Yeah.
because you can see expressions.
oh,
You
yeah.
can see when somebody goes, "Oh God," you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful on how you portray yourself because everyone's looking at you.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
ironically, I was going to say, I have two daughters, I mentioned, and the one is an anesthesia resident. So she's going to be somewhat part of our, at least within our industry.
Yep.
And our other daughter, I'm proud to say, surprisingly enough, ended up joining us and has helped us build out a lot of our tech. And it's been really fun having her in the business. I think it's a little easier for me as a mom to have my kids versus husband. That's a
Yeah.
little more challenging for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I can see that. How about
Yeah.
hiring culture over experience?
They really overlap. I mean, I think the important thing is to get both and
Yeah.
not settle for one.
Hmm. That's
Good.
Sometimes
good.
you can
Like,
convince yourself, that one is fine, but I
Enough.
think you
Yeah.
really need both. Yeah.
all right. The last and most important, hot or not, Maryland crab cakes.
They're definitely hot. They're
Okay.
hot to stay.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure. So Morgan, we're going to move into our last segment, plead the fifth. You kind of want to give Danielle what this
Yeah.
is all about?
So we're going to ask you a group of questions. We're not going to tell you how many, and you can plead the fifth on one question. All the others you have to answer. So be cautious with your plead the fifth because you don't know what's coming
Okay.
later. Right?
Okay. Do I get a
So
bonus if I don't plead the fifth on any?
yes, we'll ask you one more even tougher question.
All
Um,
right.
First one, biggest hiring mistake that you've made.
Mm,
I can tell you that person took her out to a conference with our team, and the first thing she did at lunch at 11:30 was ordered a glass of champagne combined with tequila.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay. That's a
how
red
she
flag.
started her lunch.
Yes. And I think that person had worked for us for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about for you, maybe your hardest employee conversation? Maybe not the exact conversation, but just kind of what was tough about it?
I mean, I think I'll just revert to when you have to let someone go. That is
Yeah.
just never pleasant, never easy. I'm not good at it. I hope that I'm now hiring people who can do that for me. Because it's not easy. No
Oh, it's
matter
stressful. I get it.
what. Yeah.
How about the worst business advice you've ever gotten?
The worst business advice I've ever gotten. was probably to not worry about a customer and just let them go. Um, I can't say that I listened to the person who said that,
Yep.
but
Yep.
it probably would have impacted our business in other ways. And I think it's important for any customer client that you work with that they feel that they're important.
Good.
And that goes, for my business, both directions, providers that we work with as well. And
Yeah.
it's important for your reputation that you are honest and also transparent, and and people believe that they're important to you.
Yeah. Uh, Harder running the business or practicing anesthesia?
You know, when I look at that question or think about that question, I would say harder giving anesthesia because you are responsible for
Cool.
somebody's life, and it's
Absolutely.
life or death. And
Yep.
there are times that I say to myself to just relax, that nobody's dying,
Yeah.
and that kind of helps me get through it, because that is that's the comparison. That while
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
seem
That's
crazy
fair.
and stressful, yeah.
What's one thing you would change about healthcare tomorrow if you could?
Access to healthcare um, is a big one. I think that when I just think it seems unfair that some people have access to different healthcare providers, systems, um, cures, treatments, and others don't. And I think overall, if I was to say that's what seems unfair, based on where you live, who you know, what kind of insurance you have,
Yeah.
um, and how much money or resources you have. I wish that that was something that could be changed and everybody equal access to healthcare.
Okay. Now, last one. I usually don't say last one, but I like this as a question for you because majority of the team is family. What would your team tease you about?
Let me just clarify that. Majority of my team is not my family.
Not anymore. Right.
So what would they tease me about?
Yeah.
Tease me about. Oh, probably that I don't give up,
Okay.
and that I'm probably not one to mess with. And if you think you're going to pull something over on me, you probably won't get away with it, because what they don't probably know is that I've been there and I've done that, and I got away with a lot with my parents. And I will catch you.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
Well, Danielle, we end every episode with kind of the same exact question. What is one piece of advice you would leave our listeners with that has had the biggest impact on your life?
Um, I would say biggest impact, one of the biggest impacts on my life would be my father, who passed away.
Mhm.
And what was really special about him is that while he was very, very smart, very hardworking, um, he was very opinionated. He also was very open to all types of people that he encountered and crossed paths with. And it was actually kind of interesting to me that when we had his service, when he passed, there were people who got up and spoke about him that I never even knew were in his life.
Yeah.
And the things that he connected with them on was so cool, because while he may have been in a category socioeconomically, leadership, owning a business, he still found a common denominator in all different kinds of people that he interacted with in life. And
Yeah.
I just admire him so much for that, and think that
Yeah.
is such a cool opportunity that some of us don't take on and embrace. And there's always something, some connection that you can find with somebody that you
Yep.
may or may not realize. And when you do, it's really cool.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for today, folks. I want to thank Danielle Boggio, founder and CEO of Anesthesia Solutions, joining us today. Thank you so much, Danielle. This was awesome. Where can, where can providers find Anesthesia Solutions?
Anesthesiasolutions.com.
Okay.
So we have a website. You can find us on Gaswork. You can find us, call me, Google me, anything you want. Any way you can find me, I'm around.
We know
LinkedIn.
you don't sleep, so you'll be there working.
Right. Anytime, 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. It's you've built an amazing business, and you've kind of done it your way and outworked and outfought the competition. So it's great to see, and the success is wonderful.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much, guys.
Thanks so much.
See you soon.